So, people are discussing Elden Ring. And this has been blowing up my Twitter feed over the past 24 hours. And you know me, guys. You know me. Whenever something like this happens, I can't help but enter in on the conversation. Because I hate seeing a pylon. And I hate seeing a pylon that is unfair. And let me tell you, the queen of a pretty damn decent takes, Charlanazard, came under fire over the past 24 hours, 48 hours or so, with a lot of people taking a short clip out of complete context and running with it, just as Twitter users are wont to do often. And they like to do this all the time, man. They like to do this all the time. And it is considerably annoying. It is one of my least favorite things. The social media hubbub often grabs a link out of context or a short clip out of context and runs with it for 32 million views. And everyone in the comments just starts, like, you know, raging and, you know, acting like she's like a buffoon or whatever in this case. And it's so stupid. So let's listen to the entire thing. We'll talk about it from beginning to end, and I'll give you my thoughts, and we'll have her entire discussion as well. Because I think Charlanazard makes some pretty good points. I did, you know, grab some little bits and pieces when I was like, wait a second, this can't be right. I've never seen her make a take like this before. Let's see what she's saying, and let's talk about the entire thing. And then I read I watched the you know, more of the context, and I was like, oh yeah, this makes complete sense. Why are people being so dumb on the internet? Oh yeah, it's the internet. That's why. Yeah. So here we go. So this is a random idiot on Twitter, an absolute buffoon as always. Kanatanga. Says, Elden Ring needs to be easier because I have kids. This is not what the actual context is, by the way. Shocker. So this is the false context that this absolute freak of nature buffoon is taking out of context just to get free likes and clouts on the internet. Do you think she's the type of chick to park in a handicapped zone because she thinks having kids is a disability? Okay, so here is the short clip that he takes out of context. Let's bring it up. There we go.
Is consent. There are long-term disabilities. There are situational disabilities. There are temporary disabilities.
Okay.
It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. It is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option for you to be able to pause, for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability.
So what do you guys think of that? She's basically saying that Elden Ring needs a pause button. And the Elden Ring community, or Soulsborne community, From Software fans and stuff, most of them are great. Most of them are wonderful. However, there is a very small and vocal minority in the fandom, just as they are in every single fandom, of, you know, a complete lack of context and a complete utter, like anytime someone talks about like difficulty in Elden Ring or a Soulsborne game, or anyone talks about accessibility options in these games, the very small, really small, crazy minority is like, well, if you do these things, it'll ruin the game. And if we're talking about like adding an easy mode, this might be true. And this would be true for an easy mode. And that's something I hope never happens in Elden Ring or anything like that, because that would just ruin the context of game and the struggle, the unified struggle, which is the point of all Soulsborne games. This is not that situation. And we'll look at her actual discussion here, and even in her title. Like, dude, this is how ridiculous social media is, okay? So, like, this is the context that he's trying to create, where he's like, oh, Elden Ring needs to be easier. The video title is, Elden Ring is quote-unquote too hard, parentheses, it's not. She's stating the game is not overly difficult. So anyone who's saying that it's overly difficult is being dumb. And, but, be that as it may, there is a very important point that a certain accessibility issues have been plaguing From Software games since the beginning, and Miyazaki himself, the director of From Software, the creator of all of our favorite Soulsborne games and Elden Ring as well, has talked about the fact that accessibility is something that he has been trying to make better and better with each iteration and release of his games. He says that he wants everyone to be able to go through his games for a very, very good reason. And this is true. This is true. Like a colorblind mode. That is just an accessibility thing. A pause feature, I would say, is just an accessibility thing. Things like, sound help for hearing impaired. There's certain settings for hearing impaired people, and that would be great to add in Elden Ring. That would be great to add in any From Software game. And those are things that Miyazaki himself, again, you can look it up yourself, he's talked about wanting to put more and more of those things in the games. And that is why Elden Ring is very proud of as being the most accessible Soulsborne game so far. And it's done a great job with that. It is definitely a lot of people's first Souls game. And it's great to see, people get into the game and get into the entire situation of like, becoming a FromSoft fan because of the beautiful worlds that FromSoft can create and everything like that. And that's a great thing. I'm glad that Elden Ring was the most accessible FromSoft game. And in my opinion, I've only beaten Radahn, so I'm not done with the entire game yet. I've not touched the DLC, so that's my context personally. However, I've beaten Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 on stream. And I even played the original Kingsfield, so I know how obtuse and difficult FromSoft games can become. And I love them all. I think they're all great games. And I would say that Elden Ring's difficulty, I'm sorry, is a fucking joke. Like, it's an absolute joke. It's not that hard of a game. That's not a bad thing. I love that it is accessible. It still gives you that sense of victory. There's a lot of things that you can do to make the game easier, is what I'm saying. By From Software's game of Elden Ring is the easiest From Software game so far. Dude, if you go magic or lightning or whatever, like, the game is just bonkers easy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you become really good at parrying, you destroy half the bosses in the game. Nothing wrong with that. But there's no doubt in my mind, having played at least this point in Elden Ring, I think I've had the hardest time with Radahn. And Radahn is only because I did no summons, which is, a self-imposed restriction. The fight is designed to have summons in it. Like, they have, like, 50 summons on the ground. And I was like, let's just see what I can do. And I died 50 times to Radahn in order to do no summons, but it was just for funsies. There's a lot of self-imposed things you can do to make the game easier or harder. Hence why Elden Ring is the most accessible From Software game to date. This is a very good thing, mind you. I would say one of the hardest and least accessible From Software games is Dark Souls 1. And because it gives you just the least amount of options in the game. It gives you the least amount of options of things to do, and there's a lot of ways you, for example, the the Undercity with the bones and everything like that, near the graveyard. If you went down that path for the first time or whatever, you're just screwed. Like you are just soft locked sometimes. It's ridiculous how hard that level of obtuseness is in Dark Souls 1, and that's why it's unironically my least favorite Soulsborne game. And you can hate me if you want for that discussion. I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, I will think what I think. But I think that Elden Ring is the exact opposite. It is the most accessible From Software game. That is only a good thing. Now, let's see what Charlana Zard's discussion is on YouTube for her entire context. Because it is very obvious that this fucking buffoon took it completely out of context just for internet clout, which is one of the most disgusting things that happens on social media. And of course it happened again. But let me hit some comments. The thing is, they play Elden Ring as a Dark Souls approach when they fail to realize they're the same, but not necessarily the same as they might think. Yeah, explain what you think, but I completely agree with you. Elden Ring is a Soulsborne game, but it is most akin to Dark Souls 2, in my opinion. And that's a good thing. because Dark Souls 2 had some serious, design issues, which is why a lot of people rate it the least. But a lot of the best parts of Dark Souls 2 definitely gives and lends all of its, like, I guess, like, the best parts of the designs into Elden Ring, which is all of the things that you love about Elden Ring the most, as in the various weapons, the power stancing, and ability to, like, combine weapon types and Ashes of War. Those are all Dark Souls 2 things. Yeah, exactly. It paved the way for Elden Ring. Exactly, Trevor. Exactly. The other thing about the sweeping vistas, that is very much a Dark Souls 2 thing. The elevators that last like 2 minutes long, that's a Dark Souls 2 thing. And I know this is a very popular, an unpopular comment. And people have read me on this on Twitter before, but hey, man, it is what it is. Those are the facts, Jack. I don't care if you don't like Dark Souls 2. It still had some very good things, and a lot of the team that worked on Dark Souls 2 definitely lended their expertise in making Elden Ring. Or From Software learned very direct lessons from Dark Souls 2. Took out the bad, added more good, and made Elden Ring the success and beautiful, feature-filled adventure that it is. Difficulty of Elden Ring's DLC. Yeah, I'm excited to get to it. I've not gone to it yet. Now, I do know, because this was just in the patch notes, so the patch notes spoiled something for me in Elden Ring already, the DLC, and that's okay. But apparently there's like a whole bunch of items and that you can pick up. And it's like the game directs you to pick up these items. And it directly affects the difficulty scaling of the enemies in the DLC. And this is a way that you can, again, it's a very, very strong accessibility feature in which you tailor the difficulty of the DLC and make it easier or harder to your own heart's content. This is only a good idea. And bonfire ascetics were like a big thing in Dark Souls 2 as well. A lot of people don't realize that bonfire ascetics made bosses harder, and this was like, for extra rewards or like being able to like collect double of the same boss item, things like that. That's what bonfire ascetics were used for in Dark Souls 2. And a very similar type of accessibility feature. Shocker! Shocker, Dark Souls 2 added yet another good thing. Just the card says, since she was talking about children, being a recent gamer parent, choose carefully what I play. Yeah, you can leave games without hindering my teammates. Yeah, exactly. Jazakaru, it's true. The only online multiplayer game is DST, and as much as I appreciate my friends being willing to pause for a baby, and it was depriving them from playing for long periods of time, I chose to leave the game so they can keep playing. I'm losing out because time goes on without me, but I would rather not play than to make the game worse for others. Exactly. And a lot of people were jumping on Charlanazard about talking about having kids is a situational and temporary disability. And this is like not something, they think that Charlana came up with this. The people who are hating on her are like, wow, she thinks having kids is a disability. No, this is ridiculous. This is literally, I don't know why they got rid of the comment, but this is literally the definition by Microsoft themselves. Let me see if I can find it on Google. Kids as a disability. No. As a, what is it called? Situational disability. This is like in the definition. This is in the definition of it. I'm trying to find the definition. Yeah, okay, here it is. Is it a controversial term? Yeah, here we go. So this is like how actual companies like Microsoft, for example, this is on the Microsoft site and everything like that. Yeah, here it is. Inclusive design principles. Of course, as usual, Twitter cannot fucking read. And so one of the design principles is trying to figure out what different things people need to deal with in terms of disabilities. There's permanent ones, and I'm sure, I think she even goes into context about this, where it is like, if you, God forbid, have lost your arm or something like that, it's a permanent disability. A situational disability is a one where you have a temporary situation. For example, having kids where you need to be able to take time off, you need to be able to do things, and you need to be able to have caveats to whatever you're doing in order to be able to do those responsibilities. And when the time passes and the kids grow up, in this case or whatever, that is no longer an issue. That's what the situation even means. And then there is this environment. Yeah, exactly. And then there's temporary impairments such as, broken arm, temporary healing loss, concussion, things like that. This is a common term in business. This is a business term that I've used in my own business. This is a term that anyone in any sort of level of responsibility needs to know, which is why it makes sense that no one on fucking Twitter knows how this works, because people on Twitter generally, a lot of them don't have fucking jobs, or they don't have jobs with any actual real responsibility. So yeah, let's see her comment in this situation.
The day has finally come. The people have finally spoken. So listen up,
Let's
Miyazaki. Elden Ring's DLC is too hard.
Oh my god! No. This is the thing that, you got to create a level of clickbait almost, where you're trying to bring people into the conversation, then you have the actual discussion. This is like a common thing that goes over most Twitter people's heads, which is why I'm fucking spelling it out for them. So maybe I'll make this into a clip and I'll slam this on their comment page and be like, you guys are just dense. You guys are just dumb.
Of kind of very different branching takes to make in this video. I am going to talk about accessibility and why I think accessibility is really important and how common of a conversation accessibility.
Yeah, watch it. This is the person now about a pause button. Yeah. And a pause button makes complete sense. And I'll talk about why this makes sense or why this doesn't make sense later on. After the video.
Is where FromSoft games are concerned, and why I do think it would be great if disabled players could play Elden Ring, even though it is already currently their most accessible game. There's a lot of room for improvement.
It is. And Miyazaki himself has said this. He's very proud of the amount of accessibility Elden Ring has, and it's a great thing. But he actually himself wants there to be more. It is Miyazaki's almost direct quote, I'm paraphrasing, that he's like, I want everyone to be able to go through the game regardless of what issues they're dealing with in their life. That is my goal. That he's literally stated that as his goal. He doesn't want people to not be able to complete the game. He wants them to struggle while they get through the game. The entire FromSoft ethos is struggle during a shared adventure, essentially. But he wants them to be able to get through it together.
But we're also going to talk about... I don't even know where to start. There are a bunch of negative reviews on Steam for Elden Ring because Shadow of the Erdtree is considered too hard.
Right. And this is, by the way, something that has happened in every single DLC that From Software has ever released for any Dark Souls game that I've ever played. Dark Souls 1, the DLC was, a bit ranked for that exact reason. You had to beat a boss in order to get to the DLC. When you got to the DLC, there's definitely a ramp up in difficulty. A lot of people were completely stuck on Artorias for a very long time when it first came out, and so on and so forth. And you can look up the history of it. Facts are facts. Dark Souls 2, holy crap. If you want to talk about some of the hardest DLCs ever made, Dark Souls 2's level of difficulty ramp up in DLCs was absolutely bananas. Fume Night had people quitting the game and fuming, pun intended. What I call it is, I forgot what the actual name was. Does anyone know what the actual name was in the Frost DLC? I just called it Horsefuck Valley, where it's all the invisible horses that just ram at you and just there's no way to see them. You just have to roll on basically guessing when something's gonna hit you, and so on and so forth. And you have to go through this entire area in basically the middle of a blizzard while giant invisible horses just run you down. Yeah, Frigid Outskirts. Yeah, thank you, Trevor. The name is Frigid Outskirts, but I call it Horsefuck Valley. And there are people that still can't get past it. And I totally understand it, because it was a very hard thing to get through. And then, even Dark Souls 3, which probably had the most even design from base game to DLC, I think, it still had a couple of really big pain points. Midir is a giant giant, it's the capstone boss, but it is also a very, very difficult boss. And also Sister Frida. Sister Frida is my favorite Dark Souls fight in all of Dark Souls, and followed by Fume Knight. But Sister Frida, the level of difficulty of Sister Frida is something that is like legendary in original Dark Souls 3 lore when it first came out. Sister Frida was like basically like the level of OG Radahn when it first came out, and people were just like, dying to it over and over again and sharing their deaths and trying to like come up with different, secrets and this and that and various ways to get through the fight and cheese the fight and this and that. Like all of that happened in Sister Frida. People forget so quickly. And it's because of the giant ramp up in difficulty. Sister Frida was fast for Dark Souls 3. She goes straight out of Bloodborne and no one was mad. Yo, yeah, Sister Frida was my favorite fight. I fought Sister Frida at like soul level 50 or something. So I fought her like, what is it, like 50, 60 souls early? Or soul levels early. And I just, stumbled my way into the DLC and I was like, wow, this fight is really cool. And like, I just love the theme of the fight and everything. And it never felt unbeatable. It felt fast and it felt extremely difficult. It was very, very, like, one-shotty, because I had, like, no health or whatever. But it never felt unbeatable. And that's, like, the beauty of FromSoft. And so I just, kept at it. I played it all on stream. It was one of my favorite events I've ever done on stream. 500-plus deaths to Sister Frida. We did nothing but Sister Frida. And chat was begging me to, like, leave the fight and go level up and everything. And I just refused because it never felt unbeatable. I just grinded it out and just learned the fight from beginning to end. And after 500 deaths and 3.5 streams straight of dying to Sister Frida, we beat it. And it was easily my favorite feeling in all of Dark Souls ever. Ever. Nothing has topped that. It was just such an amazing time. It was such an amazing time. And so, like, I think a lot of people that are raging about, like, oh my god, the difficulty is too hard. This is, like, probably their first Souls game. And the other problem is that they refuse to explore. Which is, you've been trained for the entirety of Elden Ring to explore the map. And when you get to the DLC, you just decide not to explore the map. And then you complain that it's too hard. Did you not learn the lesson that has been hammered into you for the entire fucking game? What is wrong with you? Dude, oh my god, man. It's so crazy, dude. It's so crazy. Anyways, let's continue.
I thought we would get to a landscape where people will admit that they found a FromSoft game too hard. Like, even if people do, I never thought that they would admit it. Now, it's worth noting that the presence of this has been a little bit exaggerated. A lot of the negative reviews on Steam are also people complaining about the performance problems, which are...
And that's true. Like, performance problems, when that happens, absolutely. This is something that, like, a lot of major DLCs are plagued with. And this is just something that happens, and they're going to work on it, and as it gets patched, the performance will get better. It kind of sucks that it did launch in a state where, the performance was not perfect, but that's okay. That's okay. The quality was still there.
They are consistent.
Right.
And that's a separate story that I've spoken about before that people did not want to hear, which is that, yeah, FromSoft really gets a pass for a lot of things sometimes.
Of course they do.
Like, the reviews were all 10 out of 10, even though most of these people are playing on PC, and there are PC performance problems with these games.
Right.
Those are totally valid. And thankfully have been
This
patched.
is actually something that happens with, like, any major release. Any major release that happens in any game, the super fans will always give it a pass. And also the games journalists will always give it a pass. This is a big problem with games journalists in general. Like, games journalists in general, like, dude, remember when Dragon's Dogma came out? Dragon's Dogma 2? People were giving Dragon's Dogma 2 a pass because they were Capcom super fans. And, I mean, I get it, but, dude, Dragon's Dogma 2 is still completely and utterly unoptimized now. And it launched, what is it, like 4 months ago? Something like that. It still hasn't been fixed. And that's why I call it Dragon's Dog shit too. It's absolute bullshit. And, but like, dude, like I said, the crazy super fans will always be crazy super fans. And crazy super fans for Elden Ring and From Software games are, some of the most rabid.
So, though, has the difficulty. There are like two sides of this, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see.
There's a thing
Now
when
the
people talk
context.
about FromSoft games that I always find really interesting. People will say, but it's part of the appeal that like you're fighting something really hard and then you finally overcome it. That's part of the appeal of the games.
Right.
No. While there are things that FromSoft games do incredibly well, like I am obsessed with their boss designs and their animation. Like, for all the things...
I think what she's saying is that it's not the main point. And that's true, it's not the main point, but the level of difficulty is part of the appeal for me. Like I said, Sister Fried is my favorite fight. Fume Knight is my second favorite fight. Artorias is up there as well. Like, it's because these fights are legendarily just complicated. It's like a dancer. Shit! Early game dancer. Early game dancer for Dark Souls 3 is like a rite of passage. Everyone who beats Dark Souls 3 and fights the dancer when they're supposed to fight the dancer quickly figures out they could have fought dancer early. And they're like, wait a second. Let's try it. And then they figure out how to fight the dancer at like soul level 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. And it's definitely part of the appeal to fight it when you're not supposed to fight it. Again, tailor making your own level of difficulty. That is truly one of the giant capstones and cornerstones of From Software games.
We love about it. Their bosses are so impressive in terms of art direction and animation.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't even need to be. Like, oh my god.
This is true. Like, I mean, Elden Ring has had only one, I would say, like, relatively difficult fight. That's Radahn. Radahn is, like, the only relatively difficult fight I've had so far. But the boss design for every other fight, from Margit to Godric, and like everyone else, the art design was top notch. Even when it's like not even that difficult of a fight. Like I one-shot Margit. The first time I played through Stormveil Castle, all the way back when Elden Ring first came out, it only took me like 5 tries to kill Margit. It wasn't that hard. It didn't matter. It's still a really good fight. It's still a really fun fight. It's still a beautiful fight with great direction. Yeah, art direction is better than graphics. Exactly. And Elden Ring encapsulates that to a T. Now, Elden Ring has its moments of beautiful graphics. Like, if you, swing your camera around when you first get out of, like, the cave at the very beginning of Elden Ring and you see the glowing tree for the first time and everything like that, like, that's just gorgeous. But if you, like, scroll on in your character and everything like that, and you see, like, the gory detail of, like, a single pixel or something, it's dog shit, man. It's absolutely dog shit for a game that came out in that time period. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's because From Software, in their infinite wisdom, and this is a level of infinite wisdom, I'm not being facetious, this is actually completely accurate, decided to put all of their effort into gameplay and art direction as opposed to graphical fidelity. And it makes a gigantic difference. I love it when games do that because they're focusing on the things that frankly matter. I don't give a shit how many pixels encapsulates like one brush in the distance. I don't care. It means nothing to me. I still play Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors is glorified 8-bit or 16-bit. Like the graphics are dog shit. But it's all gameplay. It's all direction. Art direction means more than anything else. Anything else. You don't see the graphics when Margit is beating the shit out of you. Exactly. Most games nowadays look the same due to Unreal Engine 5. I would say most games don't even use Unreal Engine 5, Joey. Like, we're now seeing newer games, a lot of them use Unreal Engine 5, and you can definitely tell, like, when people take a lazy approach to Unreal Engine 5. However, I will say, like, Unreal Engine 5 provides a baseline. That's what it is. And so when you're now seeing a lot of indie game makers or people with less resources or game companies that just don't give a shit, a lot of them look relatively samey because they're not really adding much direction to the base assets of Unreal Engine 5. I think that's what it is. Unreal Engine 5 gives a really good baseline for like a single game maker to make a relatively okay looking game for like very little comparative effort. Now, like I said, a lot of game companies take this and run with it, and they're like, oh, I don't need to work on this at all. There's no need to add anything over and above it because it looks okay enough with just the base assets or whatever I can buy from the Unreal store. I will agree with you on that. But yeah, I think that's actually just a failing of the actual dev at that point, as opposed to Unreal Engine 5 being the culprit. I think it's more like a symptom rather than a cause, if that makes sense, Joey. And Wade, good to see you, buddy. I hope you're having a great night. We're discussing some lovely From Software goodness.
They're just so good at that.
Yes.
The sense of discovery is unparalleled. The uniqueness of the worlds is near unparalleled. Like, there are a lot of things that FromSoft games do really well. But saying part of the appeal is beating the...
It is. Like, I completely disagree with her on this. Part of the appeal is absolutely how difficult it is. And this is why people do soul level 1 runs. This is why people do hardcore runs, where if you get hit once, you restart your character completely. And like all those punishing challenge modes. This is why people play on bongo drums, man. I remember when Elden Ring first came out, and there's that one streamer who played on like the DK bongo drums from like, what was it, the Wii or N64 or whatever? They beat Elden Ring on that. Like, difficulty is absolutely part of the appeal. However, the operative word here is part. And that is what I think From Software does better than any other company of gaming that I've ever seen. You can tailor make your own level of difficulty. If you want to just experience the entire storyline and make a sorcerer that one-shots every boss, go for it. Do it. There's nothing stopping you. And any so-called fan who's like, you didn't really beat the game because you used sorceries. You used summons. You didn't really beat the game. It's literally them just trying to make their own achievement, which was an arbitrary achievement, with arbitrary restrictions placed upon themselves. They're trying to make themselves feel better about something useless in their life. This arbitrary achievement means nothing in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't make you a better person in order to beat the game using just a dagger and nothing else. It doesn't make you a better person to be able to parry every single boss in the game. It doesn't make you a better person to use nothing but bow and arrow. Dude, oh my god, man, he's no longer part of the community. But I remember one member of the community way back when Elden Ring first came out. He was like literally purposefully, constantly wanking himself off for beating the entire game with just a bow and arrow. And I'm like, congratulations, that's really cool. But then he'd like be like, you're not beating the game because you didn't do it this way. And I'm like, all right, now you're just being fucking annoying. From Software fans, super fans, I mean, a lot of times they do this shit. And again, it's the very small minority. Most From Software fans are like, they do something dumb and they talk about how something dumb that they did like ended up working out in a cool way. This is like the normal From Software fan, right? The gatekeep. Yeah, exactly. Gatekeepers are in anything. Yeah, they should play the game with the controller unplugged. Well, hey, Joey, one of my favorite large streamers, one of the only ones I actually watch, she actually beat all of Elden Ring on a DDR dance pad. Was it DDR or was it Pump It Up? I can't remember. It was a dance pad. And that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Straight up, one of the coolest things I have ever seen. And Zed, it's good to see you, buddy. Happy evening. Lots and lots of love to you, buddy. Lots and lots of love to you. Hope you're having a great night. But yeah, you mean you didn't beat the final boss using Parry Shield and Dagger? Now you didn't play the game? Yeah, exactly, Trevor. Exactly. The gatekeeping is so stupid, man. Someone beating DS3 on bananas? That doesn't surprise me on some level, and that is weird. I've never heard of this, but somehow, some way, like, honestly, Trevor, you know what the funny thing is? You could have completely made that up, and I would believe you. Now, I'm pretty sure that you're not making it up, because there's no reason for you to make this up, but I'm just saying, it is so wacky that you could make a statement completely out of nowhere. Like literally saying that, oh yeah, someone streamed Dark Souls 2 with a controller under the table and he was naked and he just played with his dick. And I would probably believe you. Like, I'm just saying, I would probably believe you. Steering wheel man or bongos? Yeah, bongos. I saw the bongos. The DK bongos, I actually watched that. And that was crazy, man. That was... By the way, guys, can we just say... in just 2 minutes, look how interesting and nuanced her discussion is. I don't even agree with 100% of it. I'm actually disagreeing with her on this part, for example. And it's still a really good discussion. Like, it's a good discussion. But you wouldn't know it if you looked at Twitter in the past 2 days.
It's not part of the appeal. It's the entire design of the game. It's the whole game. It is the core ethos, the core game design of any FromSoft game, is that you are...
Again, I think it's part of the appeal. I don't think it's like the entire pillar. Which makes sense.
To approach a boss, be willing to die the first several times as you assess their moveset and figure out the puzzle that is beating this boss. You've retained it.
The shared struggle. And then, like, you know, writing down messages to your other compatriots who are playing the game. Complete strangers in the shared universe of a From Software game. Being like, try fire, or try tongue butthole in Dark Souls 2's instance, or is this a dog? Or watch out for trap ahead. You know, like everything from the most helpful statements to the least helpful statements and everything in between. Yeah, touching blood stains and seeing how other players died. Exactly tactical. Exactly. Absolutely. One reason I like their games are the blood stains, because some of the deaths are hilarious. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like an early... Yeah, watch out for dog. Yeah, exactly. And then you, like, troll your friends. Dude, oh my god. One of my biggest clips I've ever had. It was just right before we got to Radon. And it was on that bridge. And it looked like there might have been something hidden on the bridge. And someone who played through the area thought this as well. So they wrote... item ahead, or like interesting item ahead or whatever, try jumping. And there was nothing. I jumped off and I died. And I was like, wow, usually I'm able to figure out which ones of those are fake, and that one got me. And that is like one of my most famous clips. It was just a perfect instance of this. And it's like, you know, this is From Software's community at their best. When they're with each other, they understand they're in a shared struggle. They're friendly and lovingly trolling each other. They're sharing actual, you know, information with each other and everything between. That is From Software's community at the best, and that is the majority of From Software community. The gatekeepers are the vocal and idiotic and little-dicked minority.
Information about their movesets, about what kills you, about how you can avoid it, and you roll into them. And then after a certain amount of deaths, which are to be totally expected, if you beat an Elden Ring boss in less than like 3 deaths, in my opinion, that's an RNG fluke and not you playing the game well.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think Elden Ring's... I would say this is probably true for like a lot of the earlier bosses and earlier From Software games. But I think like straight up, Elden Ring's bosses are much easier. And that's a good thing, but they're much easier. Like anyone who tries to wank off about the difficulty of Elden Ring, in my, you know, not complete experience so far, but granted, I've gotten decently into the game. And, like, people were complaining about Margit being too hard way back. Margit is a fucking joke. And I beat her on, like, day 3. The Tree Sentinel was too hard, and people thought they had to fight him at the early... I did that. I died to him several times, but, you know, after I beat him the first time... It's been a joke almost every single other time. People think I'm like a god. No, you just have to dodge every single attack. Because, like, he does a lot of damage if you're playing the game incorrectly and fighting him before you get your horse and everything. Sekiro? Sekiro is gimmicky, in my opinion. I've not played Sekiro, so I don't know this completely, so I could be wrong. But it looks like parrying is just the pillar of the game. So if you're good at parrying, you can beat Sekiro. And if you're bad at parrying, then you're just not going to be able to play Sekiro. That's my worry about Sekiro. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm a little worried about that. I died to Tree Sentinel like 10 times, figuring out I was underleveled. Yeah, I did the opposite, Joey. I died to Tree Sentinel like 500 times in the first night when Elden Ring first came out. And I just decided to... And I knew I was underleveled. I knew there was going to be a mechanic where I can level up because I played every Dark Souls game ever. So, obviously, there's a way to level. And I just decided to just stick with it and just, you know, for the vibes, because it never felt unbeatable, just like Sister Frida. And I just decided to, you know, ram my head in the wall until I beat it. And I think it only took us like 100 deaths, but it took us like 100 deaths. We spent like 4.5 hours on just Tree Sentinel before we moved on. And it was good. And I loved it. I loved every single second of it. And there was nothing wrong with it. And I knew I was doing it incorrectly. And I was totally fine with it. Why? Because it's a self-imposed restriction. And it is accessibility to be able to go past it and do it the right way, or to ram your head against the wall and do it the wrong way like I did for fun. And I did it for fun. I had a great time, and it's still one of my favorite achievements in Elden Ring so far. You love Sekiro, for sure, my favorite FromSoft. Also, pairing Sekiro is much more forgiving. Oh, is it forgiving? So it probably is like, what, like fewer frames? Sorry, more frames? Is that what it is? Interesting. What's fun about Demon Souls? You have to beat the first boss before you can level up. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, Ryan, every single Dark Souls game, as they've gone forward, has become more and more accessible. This is only a good thing. This is only a good thing. But that's the facts. It really is. It's a fun challenge to fight him at low level. Exactly, yeah. That's the charm. Exactly. Yeah, there we go. We're on the same page, Joey, for sure.
A big part of the game is learning how that stuff works.
Exactly.
That's the point. You go in there, you gather that data, and then you finally beat them. That is the point of these games. The whole point is for them to be extremely
the shared struggle, creating your own story.
I do think that people complaining about the Shadow of Erdtree DLC should get good. By which I mean just pay attention to the things the game gives you that can make it way easier.
And she's going to talk about the item, I'm pretty sure, here, because there's like 50 of them, and they make like the game easier for the DLC. It like makes the item scale and so on and so forth. And that, again, that's accessibility. That's a proper feature. That's how it's a really interesting way that they implemented it, and it works. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the way they did that. The problem is that the people who are elitist about it, they feel like they don't have to do it, and then they complain it was too hard. It's like, dude, the entire game, again, of Elden Ring has been ramming through your thick skulls. Explore. And if you haven't explored enough, you're going to have a worse time than if you explored more. The entire point of the game is to explore. Yeah, it's an opt-in hard mode. Yeah, exactly. Covenant of Champions in Dark Souls 2. Dude, I love that. Exactly, Ryan. Completely agreed. Completely agreed. Press the face against the grindstone until you achieve success. Yeah, exactly. The DLC basically screams for you to respec and try new builds. Yeah, exactly, Fiery Joe. True. Also true.
That's not to say you're not allowed to complain, okay?
Dude, even Asmongold completely respect this character. He hit a while doing his original build, and he was like very frustrated. He almost quit the DLC and everything like that. But that was more to his community being like super harassy to him in the entire time, and he was just not fun for him. And then he just decided to, calm down, take a breath, respec his character, find a build that worked, and he got through it. And then he talks about how he loves the DLC and it's his favorite DLC of all time and so on and so forth. But like, that's the thing. That is the process of getting good. That is the process of getting good. Forwarding the DLC with my strength build, and I love the new challenge. Exactly. Like I'm going Guts Greatsword the entire way, and I will do that until I hit a wall where I cannot do it anymore. But I love the theme of being able to do that, and I'm going to definitely do that the entire way I possibly can. And I know at some point I'm not going to be able to do that, probably, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. There's too many sorceries. Yeah, sorceries are one of the coolest things in the game. I need to make a mage. That is the one type of build, Ryan, that I've not really fully explored. I've very deeply explored incantations. I've deeply explored strength. I've explored dex. I've explored arcane of various types of builds, bleed builds, poison builds, blah 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 blah, like every single thing in between. But one thing I've not experienced at all is basically sorceries. And I've done this in like no Dark Souls ever, really. So my second run of Elden Ring, after I do my entire first run, will be a sorcery build. I've decided it will be one of those.
Okay, we are also really weird. I'm already tangenting inside my tangent. We are really weird about acting like From some games can't be criticized. They are immune to criticism. Like, you are allowed to...
Miyazaki himself criticizes his own games. He talks very openly about the things that he's seen as failures. Even in his piece de resistance, the absolute creme de la creme of From Software, which is Elden Ring. He talks about it all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. They're perfect. I'll stab you for saying otherwise. Yeah, that's what the degenerates say, Ryan. But they say it unironically. You're saying it ironically, they say it unironically. And like, dude, if you looked on Twitter, she was getting harassed by like millions of people for that. It's crazy. And that's why I'm making this.
Complain about finding it too hard or feeling like a certain boss isn't balanced or feeling like
exactly.
hitboxes. Like, you can complain about those things and be valid. Stop acting like any criticism of a FromSoft game makes you a fake gamer.
Trevor says, I heard that Miyazaki said that Elden Ring was not quite exactly there as his vision is in his head, and he'll try again. Yeah. You know why? Because he's a perfectionist. And because he's a perfectionist is why we've gotten banger game after banger game after banger game after banger game after banger game. It's amazing. The fact that he and From Software and Larian Studios pushes so hard to make the best game that they possibly can is the beauty of those two companies. And the other thing is, by the way, one of the reasons that every game is a banger of theirs, I don't know if you knew, is because From Software and Miyazaki and Larian Studios and oh god, I can't remember his name. Sven Vernicki, I think, is his name. Sven, is it Vernicki? I think it's Vernicki. That Larian Studios had. They both are two of the rare studio heads that when they're in between games, they refuse to fire the team that made their amazing release of a game. Yeah, Sven. Yeah, I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but yeah, exactly. And the thing is that they're both two people who share the same vision of, they've each stated this, while I'm head of this studio, I will not be firing my team members, no matter what. Because these talents are why we're able to make the games we're able to make. And it is something so few game makers now know. That this is why they're able to build upon the successes and the struggles of the past. Sven Vinky. Sorry, I was adding an extra thingy. Yeah, I was adding an extra syllable. Thank you, Mage. Thank you. Yeah, Sven Vinky. Yeah, exactly. Healing Swamp. That would be hilarious. Yeah, he loves the swamps, man. He loves the swamps. But yeah, the fact that he's never happy is only a good thing.
First tangent completed. I apologize. Back to the video.
Yeah, back to the video.
Course correcting. Patch dropped for the DLC, meaning that this to me would indicate that FromSoft, gonna lean over a little.
Yeah.
Kind of agrees with the criticisms, which is pretty nuts.
And they've done this before. Like, didn't they lower the level of difficulty for Margit? I'm like pretty sure they did, and they definitely nerfed Radon twice. And I've never faced Radon at peak performance, which is like, you know. I've had people come in during the Radon fight talking about this. Oh, you didn't fight Radon at before he was nerfed, pre-nerf Radon. I'm like, well, yeah. Whatever. Who cares? Fucking and? Fucking and? Wait, he could be worse? Yeah. Radon got nerfed twice, Ryan. Radon got nerfed twice over the years. Yeah, he clapped. Oh, yeah, exactly. And like, but the thing is that From Software knows when they didn't make a smooth increase in difficulty. And that's why they nerfed him. That's why.
Saki did say that he wanted Shadow of the Erdtree to be the hardest thing they ever made, and it seems like that worked very well. People are finding it extremely difficult, even people who have been a long-time FromSoft fan. That was the intention. Yeah. I mean, it would have been crazy to let you just like finish Elden Ring and then just...
The Shadow Realm Blessings is the item I'm talking about, where there's 50 of them and it changes the scaling of the enemies and everything like that. I read these notes, that's why I knew about them. And that's totally fine. I think like this is a really good change, where the first few blessings do a little bit more of a difference, and then like if you really want to tailor make your difficulty as the blessings go up, it basically they change how the curve works for the power scaling. And this is a good change. This is a good change. There's nothing wrong with this.
Continue as though you were still playing Elden Ring. Like, they did have to up the difficulty for the DLC to even justify its own existence, in my opinion. But
Joey, exactly. You should make a time machine so you can fight Radon pre-nerf. So you can make my elitism feel good. And if you don't, then you didn't actually beat the game. Yeah, exactly, Joey. I unironically got comments like that when I was fighting Radon. Like, there were a couple of people that hopped in, said that, and left. Not like that exact words, not that, but like it was basically like that. And it was like, dude, why are you even saying this? Like, what is wrong with you? It was crazy. It was so dumb, man. I just completely ignored him because I'm used to that shit. I'm used to that shit. Should be vids on YouTube. Yeah, but it's still hard to see see what the exact changes were on YouTube. Like, it's hard to tell if someone had 60 vigor and then like they got one shot by Radon or something like that. Like, it's difficult to see those. It's difficult to see those. Estelle, I'm not sure. I know that FromSoft made a lot of difficulty changes throughout the lifespan of Elden Ring to make the the difficulty curve more even and more accessible for people. Which, like I said, this is why Elden Ring is the best From Software game ever made. This is why. This is a huge reason why. They're continuing to iterate. They're continuing to increase the accessibility. They're continuing to make these games more and more playable for every single person who possibly can play it. This is only a good thing. I know that's wacky to say in this day and age, but that's what I'm saying.
Basically, attack and damage negation curve scaling of the Shadow Realm blessings have been revised. The attack and damage negation has been increased for the first half of the maximum amount of blessing enhancements, and the second half will now be more gradual. The attack and damage negation granted by the final level of blessing enhancements has been slightly increased. So again, I take this to mean that they like kind of agree, and they were like, "Oh,
yeah, exactly.
We maybe did make this too hard,"
and they've done this before,
bad, which is super interesting. But there are things about this that, oh my god, I have so many opinions. This video's gonna turn out so messy. First, Shadow of the Erdtree.
I'm pretty sure it's a requirement for us content creators to have like complete fucking garbage in our brains where we have to go on 50 different tangents. Like, it heartens me as a much smaller content creator to watch Charlanazard go through the exact same shit that I go through, where my brain has 5 different threads of the conversation going on at the same time, and I have to jump from piece of topic to piece of topic in order to get a full conversation out. I unironically love seeing this. This is the best thing ever, man. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that this is, like, normal.
Tells you what you need to do to get good.
Right.
And I think, really, it just requires patience.
And they always have!
You may be familiar with scatter tree fragments.
Yeah, this is the shadow tree fragment thing.
But basically, this is effectively a means of an accessibility feature that exists inside of Shadow of the Erdtree, because it is optional, and I love that they've done this.
She's explaining what the mechanic
scatter tree fragment is a new upgrade material in Elden Ring, debuting in the Shadow of Erdtree.
This is not really a, by the way, this is not really a spoiler or anything. This is like, they hammer this into your head at the very beginning of the DLC. They make it so fucking obvious that only the gatekeepers of Elden Ring have not realized what it is.
DLC, scatter tree fragments are optional consumables that can be used to enhance simultaneously offensive and defensive capabilities at any sites of grace, acting like a permanent boost to your DLC damage dealt and damage negation.
Right.
Basically, you go find these things, they will make you stronger in the game.
Exactly.
If you are having trouble with a certain boss, you literally
get more
just have to
scatter trees.
They are made solely for the DLC. They only work in the DLC. They do not work in the base game. They are there specifically for players who are having trouble with any bosses that are already there, which is totally fine, by the way. You're allowed to have trouble with Elden Ring. You're allowed to find it hard. But they have been put in the game to give you that option. I love that they make this stuff optional. That it's like, yes, you have to go through effort to be able to do this.
Right.
And in theory, need to look up or walk through and find the locations of them. But I love that it's like a thing that is available.
But also, you don't need all of them. And that's why they changed how the scaling works. So they made it so you're negating more of the damage or whatever with fewer tree fragments. So you don't need to look up the walkthrough. They don't want you to have to look up the walkthrough. That's why they changed the scaling. By the way, this is a good thing.
To all players who are having trouble, leave the boss. Coolest thing about Elden Ring in general, for again, where accessibility is concerned, when new players to FromSoft games are concerned, is that you can just leave at any time. Go find these. The DLC will become easier for you. That is, they put it in there for you, and I just feel like maybe a lot of people have missed it, which I guess is like part of also the design of Elden Ring. Right? It's like
exactly. It's the entire design of Elden Ring.
But yeah, I'm finding this stuff very funny. These games are hard. We should be allowed to criticize things we don't like about them. They're not immune to criticism. I do feel like Shadow of the Erdtree literally has told you the thing that you can do to make it easier.
Right.
But at the same time, them patching it would imply to me that they were also like, maybe a bit much, which is funny. I'm not telling you to get good. I'm telling you to use all of the features available to you to...
I'll say it. Fucking get good. If you're complaining, you're doing something wrong. And if you're complaining to the point that you quit the game, learn. Every single previous Dark Souls game, every single previous Dark Souls boss, every single previous Elden Ring segment of the game has taught you these lessons. If you haven't learned the fucking lessons, you don't get to beat the game. Way back, guys, every game was like this almost. There were so many different... Lion King on the Sega Genesis. Freaking... I still... like, it's still hard to beat that game. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES. If you weren't able to learn the lessons the game was hammering into you, you just lose. So, and the lessons that they're teaching you in these From Software games are much more over the head. They're like literally beating you with it, with a stick, teaching you what it is. And if you refuse to learn and you refuse to budge, and then you complain, you're just being willfully fucking obtuse. That's it. That's literally it. I'm sorry. She's too nice to say it. I'll just say it. I don't give a shit. Like, that's just what it is.
Cater your experience.
DuckTales. Yeah, original
DuckTales. Thing
DuckTales.
about
Yeah.
accessibility.
Holy shit.
In general, it is time to talk about the incredibly cool Virtual Pro XR glasses.
The
If
hell's
you
that?
haven't heard me talk about them before, it's so cool. And there are so many ways to play. There's a neckband
Sunglasses.
for remote gaming on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. There's a mobile
it's a gamer
accessory
thing.
to make sure you can play your Switch on the go without it needing to be docked. You can plug it into your mobile phone, and yet it's all just right from your face. The Virtual Pro XR glasses have a 135-inch, 120Hz Full HD private screen with a peak brightness of 4,000 nits.
This is
Using
crazy.
ultra-clarity
What
technology,
is
they have
this?
edge-to-edge clarity, making
I've
even
never
small
heard of
text
this.
readable on the glasses display, plus anti-glare, anti-ghost, and anti-motion sickness. And they are the only XR glasses with myopia adjustments on the latest Sony Micro OLED panel.
Wait. So this means me having glasses and like thick ass glasses, it's totally fine. Because one of my big issues with the VR headsets is that they're not really made for people with glasses. And like even their adjustment straps and all that, it's still like I get a migraine and I just can't do anything after playing an hour of any VR game because it's still not good for people with astigmatism. It's still not good for people with like, you know, various eye problems and so on. And then we're just locked out of it. But apparently this is like made for people with that. That's pretty cool, man. Never
with
heard of these.
ultra-clarity.
The new Pro XR glasses also upgraded the lenses, so there is no more
Yeah, talking about accessibility, right, Dr. Friesburn? Good catch, actually. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, there you go.
image leakage, meaning your privacy will be fully
There you
protected
go.
in public.
Basically, you get to make personalized adjustments to make sure you have the sharpest image. So not only
That's
are these
cool.
like incredibly cool
That's
and fun
cool.
and great for planes, on top of that, there is some fantastic built-in stereo audio and a bunch of really helpful modes and extra uses like co-op, meaning you and your best friend could be sitting next to each other on a flight, both wearing these glasses,
This
both
is
playing Mario
insane.
Kart with giant screens.
When I was thinking about the future and like, you know, flying cars and cool shit like that, this is like the shit I've been thinking of. Not fucking NFTs. This is much better than the other shit that we've seen in the future. You know, AI dogs with targeting computers in their head that can, you know, they're trained to track your forehead when they try to shoot you. That's what we've been seeing so far over and over again over the past years. This is actually a cool, really interesting new technology. Man, thank God. You
That
get something
nobody
cool.
else can see. The glasses are also super lightweight. It's a really comfortable, really slim
like
design.
Murder Dogs?
So
I don't like
make sure
Murder
you
Dogs,
grab your
man.
Virtual Pro Dock Pack and use my code Alanah to get 10% off everything but the new glasses. Go to
No miss, no mess.
Alanah and use code Alanah. Thanks to Virtual for sponsoring this video. Now back to the video.
Ryan is like, I for one welcome our new robot overlords.
I have never understood why players would ever argue against more customization options. So this is the second half of this video, where I'm going to talk specifically about accessibility and even
Okay.
just a lot of people really not
Oh.
understanding the conversation.
So we're finally, I've been talking about this for a while. We're finally getting to the part where she's talking about the various disabilities and disability types and how people without any, you know, responsibility level of their job have never realized what accessibility is and what different types of disabilities are. This is where this part of the conversation came forward at. Okay.
about
We're finally
accessibility
here.
in Elden Ring. It has been brought up various times across various mediums by various people that Elden Ring is not, or FromSoft games in general, are not particularly accessible to disabled players. And people who are asking for accessibility are not actually asking for an easy mode. That isn't
True.
the intent. Here's the thing I want to spell out where
Some are, and the ones that are wrong. Like, that's just facts. But the majority of people talking about accessibility features are not talking about easy modes. And that is very clear.
accessibility is concerned. People who are disabled, I felt myself doing it, I'm going to do it, is another tangent. There are also multiple kinds of disabilities,
Yes.
especially where gaming is concerned. There are long-term disabilities.
Hey, there it
are
is.
situational disabilities. There are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. That is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option for you to be able to pause, for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability, a situational disability. You may need to pause to stop your kid from putting a fork into a socket, a power outlet. In Australia, we call power outlets power points, but when I moved to the US, I got bullied for that because people thought that I was referring to like a PowerPoint slideshow.
Wait, is that true? They call them PowerPoints? I never knew that.
So, trying to get that one out of my vocab.
She's completely right. She's completely right.
And there are temporary disabilities. You break your wrist, you sprain your wrist, you
Right.
temporarily have trouble playing video games. You would need something to help you press certain buttons.
Oh my god. Ryan just said, yeah, Aussies need to be bullied for that a little bit harder. Oh my god.
Press certain buttons if you're playing Elden Ring. The
Right.
third one, long-term, people who have long-term disabilities. That I do. I have tendonitis in both of my wrists from playing too many video games, unironically. That is a thing, from tapping too much. That means any rapid button mashing in any game, I'm going to have a lot of trouble with, unless there are accessibility options to prevent that. It's part of
Right.
what I worked on God of War Ragnarok. That's part of why I made an accessibility award show to like highlight this particular thing is like I have...
And this is actually one of the best trends in recent gaming, accessibility options. There have been so many more accessibility options. Like even being able to turn off motion blur. Like I'm not in, and really, I mean, I'm very blessed in that way. I'm not really disabled or anything of that nature. But motion blur is just fucking annoying for me. So I can't even imagine someone who is like disabled with motion sickness or like, overly motion sickness or things like that. And like what they go through with games that have locked motion blur on. And we used to have that shit. It's so good that they don't have that shit anymore. But yeah, it's crazy. I'm so glad we have more accessibility options. Absolutely. It's your sibling, they get hell sick. Yeah. I mean, that's me with VR. Like, I cannot play any VR game. I wish VR games, or VR in general, had accessibility options for people with glasses. Where, like, people with worse eye problems like me, we could actually use VR. I would love to be able to play the dog shit VR games that are out there. I can't. I literally cannot do it. It's very sad. I have VR headsets. I've tried a couple of them. I can't do it. I literally cannot do it. I know, Ryan, you're struggling busing. VR will head there? Yeah, exactly. I mean, earlier, she actually did like a little ad for these really cool glasses, which seem to be doing something similar. So hopefully they do that. Because, like, yeah, it's a huge issue with VR, for sure. It's rough. Yeah, Mage Power. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. And that's one of my big problems with Sony. They keep super pushing VR. Like, they have, like, entire sections of their game showcases which are, like, nothing but VR games. And it's, like, for 15 fucking minutes out of, like, a 40-minute show. And you're just like, Jesus Christ. I literally cannot play any of these games. What are you doing, Sony? Sony does it more than any other company, I swear. It really annoys me.
I have a lot of trouble with fighting games. I have a lot of trouble with any game that's really button mashy. If there are too many button prompts,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be in pain and have to like...
I can only play, due to my nerve damage in my hand from my car accident, I can only play one controller game at a time. And sparingly at that. Which is why I've not played Elden Ring in the past few days, by the way, guys. If you haven't noticed, there's not been any Elden Ring because I played like 4 nights of Elden Ring in a row, and I kind of pushed my hand a little too far. So that's why I'm not playing. I'm not disabled. Also, my hand is permanent damage. Yeah, look, it's called denial, Vertigos. It's called denial. Denial is a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing that I utilize very well. But yeah, you're correct. You're correct. This dichotomy is real. Yes, absolutely. You are correct in your statement completely, and I absolutely see it, and I will still deny it later on. Yeah. And it's because, like, I always think of, like, other people's disabilities as like, actual disabilities. It's like, you know, like, the guy who, like, doesn't go to the doctor when they're sick. It's that similar type of thing. Like, that's exactly what it is. It's dumb. It's boneheaded. I should call it for what it is, but I don't. And I will forget to do so moving forward for the exact same reason. Exactly. Exactly. Autonomy at this point? Oh, God. Ryan.
Ice my wrist afterwards and not really be able to play it. And here's the thing about accessibility in Elden Ring.
Yes.
Where any of those things are concerned. I think there's a misunderstanding that people think disabled gamers, whoever else, want an easy mode. This is not the case. It's that the appeal of Elden Ring being really fucking hard is also appealing to people with disabilities. They too want to play the extremely hard game. So they can still enjoy really hard games as well. The complications with this conversation arise, I think, with Elden Ring specifically.
Right.
Like, yeah, there are so many people who just dismiss it as like, shut up, who cares about you, you're disabled, which, you know, fuck off. Second, people just assuming they're asking for easy mode, and that's not the case. It's not an easy, it's not even less difficulty, it's more options.
And it's like the people who are asking for easy mode, you just throw their opinions in the gutter. It doesn't even count as a real opinion. That's it.
It is the unique challenge with FromSoft games of completing them being such a point of pride. They intentionally make these games difficult. Like I already said, this is an established ethos of these games. They are intentionally very difficult. Elden Ring is the broadest, the most open. You can use summons if you want to. If you want it to be harder, you don't have to. You can approach it with as much or as little assistance as you want, and you have still completed
That's the beauty of these games.
Controversial, I know, but yes, if you use summons, you've still finished the game. I don't care how you play it. Do whatever you want. But it's also just that whole culture of beating a FromSoft game is such a point of pride for people. And how do you avoid taking away that point?
I would say that it's not really just only from... Every game has this elitist group. Like, dude, this is, like, huge in League of Legends. So many League of Legends players are like, well, if you're not Masters Plus, your opinion doesn't matter for anything in the game. It's such, like, horrendously disgusting gatekeeping that happens in that game for that reason. World of Warcraft has the exact same shit, where, if you're not a Mythic Plus raider, your opinion is immediately discarded, even though it's only, like, 0.05% of players are Mythic Plus raiders or some shit. And, like, talking about how Blizzard wastes too many resources on just 0.5% of the entire game's world and player base is kind of dumb, in my opinion. Things like that. I completely agree with her. But I would say that it's not just FromSoft games. It's literally every single game possible. I got a Diamond 1 last season. I'm on track to get GM. Yeah, exactly. As soon as you hear that, you're about to hear the most toxic shit possible, generally. Yeah, exactly.
Of pride. That is one-to-one with their design ethos. It is making you feel a sense of accomplishment for overcoming something very difficult. It's a feeling humans love. You get a sense of accomplishment. You feel like you did something of value. Humans just love that. And Elden Ring's like that in video games on crack.
People do love that, but I hate it when they lie to themselves. Like, I really, really hate when people lie to themselves and they use it to attack others. Like, I think one of my least favorite things is that like superiority complex they have, especially over a fucking video game. Like, if you're this proud over a fucking video game, you need to sit down and reevaluate your fucking life, because you're a goddamn loser. And it's okay to be a loser and need to grow from it. But if you don't, like, if you're boneheaded enough to think you're not a loser and that you're right and everyone else is wrong, I just consider that pathetic. That's what it is. That's what it is. Damn right. Absolutely. Straight up, Vertigos. I said what I said. And it's I am right, everyone else is wrong. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm serious. Like, that. She's way too nice to say it. I will just say it. This is like the nice version. This is the real version. This is the authenticity right here. If you think like this, you're just fucking wrong. And you put way too much stock into video game pixels, and you need to go out and get a job. You need to learn how to talk to actual people. And you're exactly why we are in the dire straits we are as an entire society, with people like being boneheaded on social media, being toxic, forgetting how to talk to people, using anonymity to attack others and things like that. It's all on the same vein. It's all on the same vein. And welcome, Pyrolux. We love you. It's great to have you back.
Like, if I feel a sense of accomplishment every time I get an
don't be a
achievement
dick.
because I collected...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't be a dick. If you do, you're wrong and a dick. Yeah, exactly. If you're proud of your accomplishment, that's great. If you're proud of your accomplishment to the point that you're toxic to others, that's what I'm talking about. That is the line. That is the line, just to make it clear.
50 who's or what's it's. It is like triple when I beat a boss in a FromSoft game. There are bosses in Sekiro where I beat them and I like threw my hands up in the air and screamed. There are so few other games that have that effect. And that's...
I teared up when I killed Sister Frida. I could feel the emotions welling to the point of like actually tearing up when I beat Sister Frida. I will never forget that moment.
Feeling that I do think everybody should be able to have catered
Changes
to their
jorts,
own
true.
accessibility needs.
Jorts
Here's my
needed
pitch,
changing.
Okay, hear me out, the internet. Here's my pitch for fixing the
Yes.
problems surrounding...
You've seen my jorts.
Elden Ring or FromSoft games in general being so like just the discourse being so hotly contested. Like it's like I've been making fun of people this week.
The only reason it's so hotly contested is because the player base has grown so much. So when a player base grows a lot, you get a lot more toxic people. The other reason the discourse is so hotly contested is because social media has just become more and more annoying and more gratifying to trolls. And that is the problem with Twitter. And people will say and take out of context certain things just for extra internet points. That's literally it. That's literally it. That's the only reason. Those are the
you
reasons.
Played with someone, you didn't finish the game. That you cheated, even though it's a mechanic that's right there. It's literally intentionally there. It would be like saying you didn't beat Shadow of the Erdtree because you used the scatter tree fragments. It's nonsense. Yeah. They're in the... Miyazaki put them in.
By the time I get to the Elden Ring DLC, guys, I can tell you, keep this in mind. I will have people hop in here asking me how many scatter tree fragments I've used. And if I've used more than some arbitrary number that they came up with that makes them, like, wank off at night, then they'll call me a noob who hasn't beaten the game. This will happen. This will absolutely happen. I can foresee it. I can foresee it. The magic number is 3. Yeah, exactly. Who knows what the magic number will be, but every single person will have a different magic number when they're that elitist.
In the game, it's cool that we can adopt them or not adopt them based on how we want to experience the thing or the unique challenges that we have, because we're all fucking different.
It's a great
people,
mechanic,
right? Here's my pitch. Okay, gamers, hear me. I haven't had this conversation with anyone, so I don't know how many holes there are, but this is my thought.
Okay.
What if, for every game that you finish, but especially for FromSoft games, there were an ending title screen that you could screenshot and you could share very easily that details exactly how you finish the game? Are people going to reply to each other who share that and be toxic?
We have this. We don't have this in Elden Ring, but we have this in other games. We have this specifically in runs for Resident Evil. Resident Evil, your run used to get graded A, B, C, D, and E, and so on, based on your healing items, the saves used, the time completed, the times you got hit, the ammo used, and everything. There's a whole bunch of arbitrary numbers. And the problem with this is that people always use this as a way to gatekeep. I think this is a terrible idea. I know she means well. I actually don't blame her for this thought at all. She's thinking that this is a cool way people can show off their achievement. The problem is, I think this would only serve to make people more elitist and give them ammunitions on ways to be completely overtly elitist and gatekeepy with Elden Ring. I hope this is never added to Elden Ring. I think this would be a terrible idea. But I can understand why she thinks it would be a good idea. I just am far less hopeful about the gaming community than Charlana Zard is. There's many instances in this 13 minutes so far of her video where she's way too nice. And I just tell you how it is. She's just way too nice. She's a great content creator. Her positivity is a thing to ascribe to and a thing to really hold on a pedestal. I am not that. I am not that. I will tell you how it is, man. Them bitches are toxic. The gatekeepers, man. There's no way. If you aren't Let Me Solo Her, your opinion doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Did you know Let Me Solo Her is actually struggling with the Elden Ring DLC bosses? As well. And he's like, talk about it. It's great. I love it. And he's like the exact opposite of a gatekeeper. And he's like, you know, very loudly talking about these things. I think that's really cool.
About it. Yeah, people are gonna be like,
yeah.
He summons you died and be summons every to give me him. Yeah, people are gonna be dicks. But exactly. I feel like it would maybe prevent some of the extra accessibility specific gatekeeping. Like all of these people who
I don't think it would. I think it would just exacerbate the problem. I can see where her nice heart is thinking. I just don't think that would I completely disagree with her on this. This is like a terrible idea. Souls DLCs are so much more difficult than the base game. Oh yeah, I talked about it. Early in the video, Parallax, I went through every single Souls and talked about every single DLC and how much of a ramp up in difficulty each one of them was. Exactly.
Vehemently against.
Yeah, it would provide concrete proof to the gatekeepers. Yes, this is exactly what her idea would do. Yeah, exactly.
Accessibility options, which is really, again, just in-game customization options. No one's asking for less or more damage, but like less button presses or there's a large list of things that can make it easier for...
One thing I heard about the Elden Ring DLC bosses is that there's no break in between their attack patterns. So it's just continuously attack. And that's it. And I'm a little worried about that because I don't find that to be good game design. So I'm a little worried if that's actually the case. Now, granted, I've not gotten there myself, so I don't know. But I will say that if that is the case, that's not a fun boss. I would not find that mechanic fun in any way, shape, or form. I think Radahn was super cool because he hit like a truck, and if I messed up twice, I'm dead. However, every pattern was a clear pattern that I could learn. Very hard to dodge, but I could learn them. Same thing with Sister Frieda. Sister Frieda is a very learnable fight. It never felt that that it was unfair. And Astrogali, my friend, welcome to stream, welcome to Quarry Crew. It's a pleasure to meet you. How are you doing tonight? Don't know Elden Ring because I haven't played it. Don't worry, my friend. We're just discussing the Souls in general. Ringed City DLC. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. My favorite fight, Astrogali, was Painted World of Ariandel's Sister Frieda. Oh my god. That fight was my favorite. It kicked my ass completely. We played it for 3.5 streams in a row of me doing nothing but dying over and over and over again. But it always felt beatable. So I felt like I could do it. And at some point we did. And it was super, super fulfilling and awesome. And one of my favorite times of playing Souls ever. Input reading hurts. Yeah, exactly. It does. It does. So when it's like too inaccessible, Vertigos is my entire point. That's my exact point. New Limit, proud I finished base DLC. Base DS3. Yeah, exactly. I'm really glad you did, Pyrolux. Absolutely. 3-phase fight. Yeah, exactly. It was like it was the ultimate fight for me, Astrogali. It was the ultimate fight for me in all Soulsborne. And my second favorite was Fume Knight. I don't know if you ever played Dark Souls 2, but Fume Knight. Oh man, holy shit. Fume Knight was so cool. Indaro, my friend, how are you doing? Welcome. Lady Maria. I've not played Bloodborne. I have played Bloodborne. I've only played like 3 hours of Bloodborne when we were waiting for Elden Ring to download. The very first night it came out. The big sword hitbox? Yeah, exactly. This is my dream. I get to actually fuck myself. Yes, exactly. By the way, Astrogali, what other kind of games you have to play, watch, enjoy? We love making new friends. If you enjoyed the vibes, you enjoyed the discussion, we talk about a lot of games. We play every game genre, under the sun, every single night, 56 months in a row. If you enjoy the vibes, drop a follow. Join the Quarry Crew, my friend. It'd be great to meet you. Hell yeah, my friend. Welcome.
Disable players to play a really hard game and still have it feel really hard, but still be able to play it, you know? But what if you get a screen at the end with the credits that shows exactly how you played it or what options you had on or off? In my head, this would alleviate a lot of that discourse. People are saying no accessibility.
I'm very glad that she tried, but no.
Because I want to be able to play Elden Ring the exact way that I want to be able to play it. And I feel like
Aster Golly, thank you so much for the follow, my friend. Welcome to the Corey Crew officially. It is great to meet you. Hell yeah. Your favorite is BioShock? Dude, BioShock 1 was the first game I played in as a variety. Because I started off playing nothing but League of Legends my first 3 months of streaming. So there was a couple of games that were like my first variety games. Alan Wake 1 was one of them. BioShock 1 was one of them. And Oxygen Not Included was another one. And those games, like, oh god. They all hold a special place in my heart. They're so good, dude. Really, really good choices. Really, really good choices. I have not gotten to Sekiro yet. Sekiro is something I'll play after Elden Ring. Hell yeah. Welcome. Oh, by the way, we also have an amazing Discord that is a great community. Feel free to hop on in there as well. Everyone in there is chill, nice. We have a lot of fun. We do a lot of discussions and play all kinds of games. Hell yeah. Welcome.
No accessibility whatsoever, because I want to be able to play Elden Ring the exact way that I want to be able to play it. And I feel like those people are shooting themselves in the foot, because what if they get one of the...
They already can. They already can. This end screen would do nothing but give people ammunition.
Those temporary, situational, or short-term disabilities. You break your wrist, you're not going to be able to play Elden Ring. You have a kid, suddenly you can't play Elden Ring. Like, I feel like they say it when they don't have disabilities, but in 10 years, when you do have some kind of disability, I feel like you're going to retroactively kind of regret that you were like, absolutely not. Don't change anything. I finished Tunic. That game rules and is very hard.
I haven't tried
After
Tunic.
I finished it, I beat the final boss that you don't even have to,
That's the one that's like Legend of Zelda with like, it's like, third-party Legend of Zelda with like a lot more puzzles, right? I'm pretty sure that's what Tunic is. It looked nice.
She was so hard. She was so hard.
You know, playing Tunic?
It took me days.
It is?
Tunic
Excellent.
has an accessibility option in it that you can use to... It's basically God mode. I think you can prevent all damage. I beat the game without that and felt so accomplished and so proud of myself. And I don't care that that mode is there, or that option is there to help other people who still want to experience the game without that. I think that's perfectly fine. But
I think that would be fine in non-From Software games. I'm glad that that game has that option. I think a lot of games have those options nowadays, and that's a great thing. Story mode is often what it's called, or what I call it is game journalist mode as well. But the thing is that From Software games, having a single layer of difficulty that you can tailor make and make easier with small adjustments is the cornerstone of that game. So I think like adding an easy mode to From Software will negate that. I think that is something that should probably be avoided for From Software games. Yeah, exactly. Cozy Vibe games should have those things. Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I completely agree.
I would have liked just a little something at the end, even an achievement, to give me the credit for doing the hardest fights on what is effectively the hardest in-game possible difficulty, because I didn't have those accessibility options on. You know what I mean? That's my thought, basically. Elden Ring is already the most accessible FromSoft game.
I think everyone learned the lesson from Capcom. That's why they don't do it. Everyone learned the lesson from Capcom, and you absolutely you see to this day the amount of gatekeeping for any kind of scoring system in any of these games. It still happens. Didn't Resident Evil 4 Remake have this scoring system? I'm pretty sure it did. I know Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake did. And I played those games. I played those games to the level I was able to do challenge modes, no hit runs and everything. And people gatekept the shit out of those games. And like, oh, if you didn't get an A+, you didn't play the game. All that bullshit. This shit was so annoying, man. It's so stupid. It doesn't add anything to the conversation. I didn't have any positive repercussions for the game having a scoring system for 2 Remake and 3 Remake. I only played 4 Remake once, so I liked it, but I'll go back to it in time. 4 Remake has it? I got you. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I don't remember if the discourse was the same for 4 Remake, but I will say 2 Remake and 3 Remake absolutely had huge segments of the Capcom population, or like, the vocal minority, using that entire scoring system as a huge negative thing, where they just gatekept the shit out of people, made fun of people for getting a D score for playing the game finishing the game, you know, they had to heal a lot and they had certain continues and stuff, so they got a D scoring or whatever. It didn't add a single good thing. I'm just saying, we've seen past its precedents, and I'm pretty sure game companies have all seen past its precedents. I think Capcom will continue to add into the games because they don't care, and that's just Capcom's way of doing things. They just will continue to do that with every single game that they come out with the Resident Evil series and such, and that's fine, but it's just not going to add anything positive. That's all. It's just not going to add anything positive.
If you're complaining about Shadow of the Erdtree being too hard, you don't have to play it. You are definitely allowed to criticize them. And I also think you should explore more, because you will find another build or another means to make things easier. Like, I think you're being impatient is probably what's happening.
Probably the overs from original ranking system for multiplayer shooters.
Obviously don't have accessibility.
Well, that's the thing. Multiplayer shooters are super toxic. Exactly, Hopeful Zero. They're toxic in the exact same way.
Problems. But what if,
for that exact same
we
reason,
could actually allow disabled players to play these games, which is a thing I care about. You just
man. You look at an MMO, damage meters. Every single time a damage meter is added into a game, the game gets more toxic. Guess what? Why is Final Fantasy XIV relatively less toxic? There's no damage meter. Did your team beat the boss? You did? Congratulations. Did they not? Well. Do you have an add-on to, like, you know, give you arbitrary marking points for, like, being able to wank yourself off? No. You're not allowed to use add-ons in F14. I remember religiously playing Halo 2. I was in the top 30 dozen. Doesn't mean I lorded over other peeps. Oh, yeah, Hopeful Zero. There's plenty of people who don't do this. I'm just saying that this is just another tool that people use to lord it over other people. I was top 200 Halo 2 in NA, Hopeful Zero. I completely remember. That game was super giga toxic, man. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh, God, Ryan. Other end of the story, though, Smash Bros. Right now is the issues of people using compatibility controls to gain an advantage in competitive play. Exactly. That's one reason I'm a little reticent about certain games having easy modes and things like that. Completely agreed. Completely agreed, Mage Power. Yes. People would use, for example, that's why I think that Elden Ring or From Software games in the future should never have an easy mode. People would just use it for that exact reason. For that exact reason. And including in PvP and so on and so forth as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, Fallen Angel. I mean, every game has their issues, and that is the issue that I've heard with F14 as well. And also, like, if you don't... The other thing with F14, the thing that I know is gatekept, is if you don't love and wank over the story in the exact way that people want you to, then the F14 community will completely ostracize you. I know this for a fact. I still get people that have tried to shit talk me for not playing F14 again. And I will play it at my own time, but, like, I actually think the first 100 hours of F14 are dog shit. They've improved it. It's still dog shit. I don't want a game to get good after 100 hours. I think that it's fine that it gets better after 100 hours. That's great. But the fact that it takes 100 hours to get good is definitely a failing of F14. And the thing is, the designers know this, which is why they're continuously working on it. The designers even agree with me. But me saying this made, like, a whole bunch of people really pissed off of an F14 and made people unfollow me. Do I give a shit? No, they can go fuck themselves. I said what I said. No, I know I'm right. But the problem is that people are still toxic over it. And it is what it is. Every community has their negative people like that. 100%. For me, it's like, if an MMO is not interesting and plays well at the very first minute, and, like, at least, like, the first couple of hours, I'm not going to continue playing it. Like, that's the thing. If it takes that long to ramp up and become a good game, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's just a game's failing. I definitely think the game is worse off for it. I think it's a design issue. Yeah. Now, is the rest of the game worth it? Perhaps. But will I get to that point? Probably not, and most people won't either.
End of the game,
But
you
yeah.
just get a screen with all your stats. How many times you died, what options you did or did not have on. So people can still brag.
While back in Classic was
and still
grabbing.
show off, because, again, that is clearly
What do you
what
mean grabbing?
people like doing with these games. I just feel like it would solve a lot of this conversation. It's really not about asking.
Oh, you mean at early level? Yeah,
Exactly.
WoW Classic is one of the pinnacles of MMO design because of that reason. It was engaging from level 1. Exactly. I completely agree with you on that. A lot of people hate me for that, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. Completely agree with you on that.
FromSoft to make the game easier where accessibility is concerned. It's about allowing more people to play it. And sometimes people just need different settings to be able to do that. More customization to be able to do that. Does it make sense? I feel like it makes sense.
I think a lot of
basically, yeah.
I think there's a lot of customization, a lot of accessibility options that can still be added to From Software games. I think, like I said, colorblind mode, huge oversight so far, can absolutely be added with no repercussions. A pause, absolutely. People were talking about the issues with having a pause, where you're on an online game and it's difficult to pause an online game. Yes, but there's ways around that. The pause button makes your character go completely offline, disconnects you from the offline. People can use that in a toxic way, sure, but there could be a reporting system for that. It's not that hard to implement. And then when you unpause, there's like a little bit of a loading time, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever, maybe even a countdown on screen until you're back online and can see spirits and invite people and so on. Again, nothing wrong with that. I think that would work well as a really good middle ground. Hell yeah. You know what opener made me feel sad? You know you can't save the tutorial you need to beat for the start of the game in near auto. Oh yeah, in near. Yeah. I heard that was a big issue. I never played near. I will play it at some point, but I did hear about that. Yeah. That is a failing of an otherwise apparently very good and critically high rated game. Absolutely, so stupid. Yeah, I would find that stupid as well. Absolutely, I would definitely find that stupid. Mr. Good Vibes, what you been up to tonight, my friend? Loads of love to you, buddy. Good to have you back. Welcome.
I'm just so surprised that we're in a timeline where literally enough people are complaining about it. Like, all of the games journalists gave it a 10 out of 10, but the Steam reviews, the gamers are the ones saying it's just too damn hard.
Yeah.
For any of those people who do not
Gamers can be bitches. Shocker.
Have accessibility specific issues.
And I think, like I said, a large part of it is people are very much complaining a lot because of how much gatekeeping there is in the Souls community. So, I'm using Asmongold as a direct example here. He made an entire video about how he didn't want to play video games anymore for a good chunk because of the amount of gatekeeping and bullshit he was dealing with playing the Elden Ring DLC and dying a lot, and he was getting really frustrated. And I can understand that level of frustration. I can understand that level of toxicity. It being a streamer, you definitely get hit with that a lot sometimes, and it can become overwhelming. I don't think that's a failing of the game, and he realized that as well, and he makes a video about that later on as well. But I can definitely understand why he thought that way. And I think that's a lot of the people being completely negative about this on the Steam reviews and stuff as well. They're very much similar types of people.
It's gotta explore more, dude. You can do it. You can do it. I think you're being impatient.
Community is impossible to control.
Yeah, exactly. And to the accessibility conversation that comes up every single time FromSoft has a new game, I would love to see them have more accessibility options.
Yeah, and they wanted to, and they will, and that's a good thing.
Not like to see them make the games easier or less challenging, and it's a difficult balance to strike, obviously, but
right.
I feel like I found kind of a solution.
I don't think her solution is viable in any way, shape, or form, but I appreciate her discussion, and her discussion had a lot of nuance, and far more nuance than this fucking ignoramus Kanatanga used to try to, drum up a whole bunch of hate for her. For 32 million views and just a whole bunch of likes and shit. This guy is a fucking scumbag. And he's not the only one. I mean, like, you go through the comments and it's just like person after person after person. Oh, here it is. Yeah. There we go. This is the Microsoft Design Toolkit. This is the picture I was trying to find. This is the one that I've seen. This is the one that is like a business standard. And it's just for people to understand what different types of accessibility options are needed in different situations. It's right there. It's right fucking there. I don't know about bartending. I think it's like that you can't hear things. But yeah. But like that's what it is. That's what it is. It's just like being able to understand different situations and what those situations might create as challenges. And I think this is actually a very important discussion that people should have more. And, dude, this fucking clown sees this chart, sees what this is, looks at bartending, doesn't have the context of, you know, being able to hear things in a loud venue. Bartending is just an example. It's a fucking example, you ignoramus. Oh my god, man. And I want you to remember, guys. I want you to remember. You know what the true tragedy here is? This motherfucker can vote. This guy votes in our elections. Actually, I don't know if he's overage or underage to vote, but, you know, chances are very high this guy's a fucking voter. That's what the tragedy is, man. Yeah, exactly. Read lips, hardcore sometimes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I don't want to guess who or what, existential. Like, I know people all across the political spectrum that are fucking idiots. Like, I know a lot of people on every single part of the political spectrum that are absolutely gatekeeping fucking idiots. But I will, yeah, exactly. Don't now post the entire video. Then why post it obviously out of context, you fucking idiot? There we go. Should I have called him a fucking idiot? Probably not. Do I care? Also, no. I say it how it is. I say it how it is. It's one reason my Twitter is not very popular. Feeding the trolls? Yeah. Well, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know what I think really fights against the gatekeeping? By the way, you know what it really is? Actually being open about the discussion. Doing things like creating videos. Doing things like bullying the fucking idiot who tried to bully others. If you bully the bullier, they fold, like, immediately. It's not feeding the trolls, it's smacking the trolls and make them feel shame. That's what I think. That's what I think. However, I've always been very aggressive in this way. Yeah, it was a good joke, Ryan. Yeah, happy Treason Day. Yeah, happy 4th of July, everyone. By the way, happy 4th of July. They fold like a hot Mars bar. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Trolls be trolls. Hey, I'll tell you what, Gravy Witch. I'll tell you what. Every single time I was silent to a troll when they came in for League of Legends, you know, I play a lot of League, and they come in with being trolly and being toxic and whatever. Being silent has never accomplished anything. Telling them what pieces of shit they are and how no one will ever love them and everything actually makes them feel some shame. They may not feel it immediately, but a lot of times, a lot of those people are fucking lonely. They're fucking pathetic. They know they're losers. They know that they have no lives. They know they have no friends. They know that they have no women in their lives. They lack bitches. They lack maidens. They're maidenless. And at some point, in the deep, dark times when they're lonely and stuff, they often think about these things. Wow, me? No, not you, Vertigos. You're beautiful. Don't even. But yeah, like, for real. Like, this is exactly how bullies react. And I know this because I've fought bullies all my life. I know exactly how pathetic they are. Internally, they're some of the most pathetic people on the face of the fucking planet. And when you remind them of that, sometimes they get better. I can tell you, a lot of times I've had people come in to the ban statement or whatever. Whenever I ban them, they can, you know, ask for an unban. The unban requests. Some of them have been like that, being like, wow, I was completely out of line. You were actually right. I had to think about it. And I feel like I'm a better person now. Maybe you should give me another chance. And they become members of this community. It's worked. Anecdotally, sure. But it's actually worked. Absolutely. And when it doesn't work for that level, and it just works for them to, you know, think about their lives later on, I still consider that a win. Absolutely. Like, giving any pushback to someone being toxic, I think is a worthy cause, in my opinion. Now, a lot of people don't think like this, and that's totally fine. And if you feel like you can't handle the heat in order to do this, I do not judge you. It's not for everyone. I think most people shouldn't do this because most people get flustered, they get really upset, they get emotional, and it hurts them internally and stuff. I don't want people to go through that. I will say that I can handle it, and I like to handle it, and I like to, you know, hand their ass to them every single chance I get. Makes me feel better, and I think it adds good in the world. Anyway, that's my discussion from beginning to end. I hope you guys liked a lovely, lovely video. If you do, give it a like, give it a sub, share it with your friends. What do you guys think about this issue? What accessibility options do you think could be added into the next Soulsborne game by Miyazaki, or any game in general? I would love to hear your comments below. Give it in the options below, in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you.